I don't even know how to begin this. I feel like my entire reality shattered in a single moment, and I don't know how to move forward. I, 30F, have been with my partner, 35M, for nearly a decade. We have 2 kids together, 5F and 2M, and I've been a stay-at-home mom since our first was born. Our life wasn't perfect, but I thought we were solid. I thought we understood each other. Until last night, it started as just another evening. After putting the kids to bed, I sat down in the living room to talk to my husband. He's the only adult I interact with outside of my mother, and sometimes I just need to feel like more than a caretaker. We talked for a little while before he started getting handsy. At first, it was playful, but when I tried to steer the conversation back, he kept pushing. I reminded him that I didn't want any more children. I've told him this many times before. My second pregnancy was rough, and I don't want to go through that again. And I know how he is about condoms. He's always hated them. But he agreed that if he wore one, we could have sex. I should have known better. I feel so stupid now. I went to the nightstand, grabbed a condom, and even put it on him myself to make sure there wouldn't be any accidents. He seemed annoyed, but he didn't fight me on it. So we started. Everything seemed normal, but after a position change, I felt something warm splash onto my back. I immediately froze. My stomach turned to ice as I asked him what that was. And do you know what he did? He laughed. "Oh, the condom came off," he said, like it was the funniest thing in the world. "Not a big deal. We've done it raw plenty of times." I don't know why, but the second he said that, I started sobbing. Not quiet, pretty crying-guggly, chest-racking sobs. It was like my body had been hit by a truck. All I could think about was waking up a month from now, staring at 2 pink lines, knowing that my life had just been derailed again because of him. His laughter stopped. He reached out to hug me, but I flinched away. Then he looked at me confused. "Why are you acting like I ped you?" he asked, and suddenly I was sick to my stomach. I told him I felt like I couldn't trust him anymore, that I had set a boundary, and he had completely violated it. He rolled his eyes. "You agreed to sex," he said. "This is just you being dramatic." I got up, locked myself in the bathroom, and cried until I felt numb. He knocked on the door a couple of times, but eventually gave up and went to bed. I slept on the couch. Today, he's acting like nothing happened. He kissed me on the forehead this morning, made breakfast for the kids, and even texted me sweet things throughout the day, like he's trying to pretend everything is fine, like I'm just going to forget. I don't know what to do. I don't even know how to look at him right now. A part of me wants to pack up the kids and run, but another part of me feels paralyzed. This is the father of my children. This is the man I've built a life with. If I leave, what happens to them? What happens to me? I also know how my community is. If I leave, I will be judged. I will be shunned. My whole support system is wrapped up in my marriage, and I feel trapped. I am trapped. I know I need to talk to someone, but I'm terrified. I don't know if I can trust him, but I also don't know if I can handle the fallout of leaving. Am I crazy for feeling betrayed? Am I overreacting? Because right now it feels like my whole world just imploded and I have no idea what to do next. I wasn't expecting so many responses, but thank you. Reading through them, I realize I need to take this seriously. I don't know if I have the strength to leave yet, but I do know I need to talk to someone. I reached out to my mom, and she's coming over tomorrow. I don't know what I'll say, but I just need to see someone who knows me outside of this marriage. Thank you for reminding me that my feelings are valid. I'll update if I can. I've always been a people pleaser. I don't rock the boat, I avoid confrontation, and I say yes even when I want to say no. So, when I started working for Michelle 3 years ago, it didn't take long for me to fall into a pattern of doing little favors for her. At first, it was small things: grabbing her coffee, covering for her when she came in late, making her copies. She's a strong personality, commanding and charming when she wants to be. I admired her work ethic, even if she was a bit intense. Then she started asking for rides. Michelle doesn't drive, never has, and at the time it seemed harmless. My place was only a few minutes past her house, and I figured, why not? What's a 10-minute detour? But soon it became a daily thing, an unspoken agreement. I was her ride, whether I liked it or not. And then the waiting started. Most days I wanted to leave right at 5, but Michelle? She'd always be wrapping something up. "Give me 5 minutes," she'd say. 5 minutes would turn into 10, then 15. Sometimes she'd take a quick call that left me sitting in the parking lot for half an hour. I started dreading my evenings. The days Michelle wasn't in the office felt like freedom. No waiting, no feeling obligated to stay later than necessary. But the one time I hinted that I needed to leave on time, she just smiled and said, "Oh, you can wait, can't you?" I hated myself for nodding. Then, last week, everything changed. Michelle had stayed late again. I was already irritated, but when she got into my car, she seemed off, more agitated than usual. Her phone kept buzzing, and she ignored it every time. I couldn't help but peek at the screen when it lit up. Blocked number, multiple times. I didn't say anything at first, but then Michelle let out a sharp breath and muttered, "Not this again." "Everything okay?" I asked cautiously. She glanced at me, her face unreadable, before she sighed. "Just some drama. It'll pass." I wanted to leave it alone. I really did. But something about her tone set me on edge. And then, as we pulled up to her house, I saw the figure standing at her front door. A man, tall, broad shoulders. He turned the moment my headlights hit him. And Michelle? She turned ghost white. "Drive?" Her voice was sharp, urgent. My heart slammed against my ribs. "What?" "Drive, now!" I barely had time to process before she grabbed my arm, nails digging in. I floored it. "Michelle, what the hell?" "Don't talk. Just keep driving." I should have dropped her off somewhere and gone home. I should have demanded answers. But instead, I drove in silence, my mind spinning. The way she was breathing sharp and shallow made my own chest tighten. "Who was that?" I finally asked. "No one. It's handled." It didn't look handled to me. The next morning at work, Michelle acted like nothing had happened. But I couldn't let it go. I did something I had never done before. I snooped. I searched her name online, expecting nothing. What I found made my blood run cold. Michelle had a restraining order against her ex-husband, a man who had been arrested multiple times for stalking and harassment, a man whose picture matched the guy at her house. And suddenly, all the waiting, the calls she ignored, the times she made me stay late, it wasn't just about her being demanding. She had been keeping herself from going home. That night, when I picked her up, I didn't wait for her to ask. "You're scared of him, aren't you?" She stared at me, and for the first time in 3 years, she looked vulnerable. "It's none of your business." "You're making it my business by dragging me into it." She was silent for a long moment. Then she left a bitter, humorless sound. "You want out? Fine. No more rides." I expected to feel relief, but all I felt was dread. Michelle stopped staying late after that, but a few days later, she didn't show up to work at all. And she never answered my texts. I went to her house, but her car wasn't there. The neighbor said they saw her leave with a man the night before. The police found her car abandoned 2 days later. And Michelle? She was gone. Vanished without a trace. I sat in my car for a long time that night, staring at the empty seat beside me. For years, I had resented every extra minute I spent waiting for her. But now I wished I had waited just a little longer. Boyfriend, 35, joined my mother's birthday dinner empty-handed. Boyfriend and I, both 35, began dating 6 months ago and have discussed long-term intentions of marriage to be considered after a year with the goal of children. He asked to be taken serious and would like to join family events. My mother's birthday approached and we were going to dinner at a nice restaurant, and he asked what gift to buy, and I replied, a proper gift isn't necessary, but a small gesture would be meaningful. I informed him a gesture can be flowers, whiskey, wine, sweets, etc. would all be appropriate for a birthday celebration. A few days later, he asked me again what to bring, and I repeated what I told him prior. He informed me he didn't want to give alcohol as he gave my parents a bottle previously and didn't want it to be the same gesture for every event. I said, okay, how about flowers, she replies. It's weird to give another man wife flowers. I reassured him there would be no offense taken and that again, a gesture is what matters. Another day or two passes and he asks the same question again. Starts stating that I have an attitude because I haven't given him any ideas. He asks if she likes books. I say sure she'd accept, especially if it's meaningful, and suggested maybe he can recall a conversation they had alone and pick a gift based on their interaction. He said they hadn't, so he needs my guidance. At this point, I'm annoyed and reminded him that I already discussed my ideas with him for a week now, but he's choosing not to pick from the gesture ideas I originally proposed for various reasons. When I pick him up Sunday evening to drive to the restaurant, he has nothing. I ask if he forgot anything or needs to run back to his car, and he says no. On the drive up to the restaurant, which is an hour and a half away, I inquired what he ultimately decided on, noting he was empty-handed, and his reply, "Nothing. I asked for your help, but you didn't help me." I told him it was inappropriate and considered poor taste to show up to a birthday dinner party, especially for my parents, without even a small gesture. He still continues to tell me he didn't want to do my ideas of wine or flowers, and so I asked him if the better option was nothing at all. He then started calling florist, many of which were closed on Sunday evenings, but he found one which turned out to be an Indian flower shop that sold religious flower necklaces, which was open but not a florist. Nonetheless, the woman worked her magic to create a bouquet of roses, noting she was not a florist but will try her best. We lost time as I was the one responsible for setting up and had all the decor balloons in my bag. I felt so flustered and upset that he would wait until we were on our way, and my inquiry to share he planned to attend empty-handed. At no point did he offer to cover his meal or contribute towards the tip, but comfortably ate and drank 4 glasses of wine. While I didn't expect him to pay, I thought about the impression I would make joining a family birthday dinner, especially for someone's parents, and drinking a $110 tab alone without even a small gesture, card, or offering to cover at least my portion of dinner, tip even if not accepted. It left a bad taste in my mouth, and I discussed it with him after, and he's adamant I didn't give him adequate options, and the ones I gave he didn't want to do, so he came empty-handed. Yes, in the end, he came with flowers, but only because I was driving and firmly told him he cannot walk in empty-handed. At no point did he ask to sign my card or can you grab flowers and I'll sell you. Nothing it took me calling him out to do something. It's my parents and I expressed it felt hurtful he chose to do nothing in lieu of something. Am I too harsh or overthinking this? Would this be a deal breaker? Boyfriend showed at my mother's birthday dinner without a small gesture, which I told him is considered the norm, and gave options of wine, flowers, sweets. He declined the ideas and insisted I give him alternatives. I informed him those would be the most appropriate with my mother, and he did not feel flowers. Wine was appropriate for another wife, my mom. He continued to ask for more ideas, and I told him he shoots down all ideas I've already given, and at this point he should choose. I arrived to pick him up for Sunday dinner and find out mid-car ride to restaurant he's empty-handed and blames me for not giving him more ideas. I reroute to get flowers so he's not empty-handed. He enjoys and doesn't offer to contribute to $110 plus PP meal and 4 rounds of drinks. I'm upset. The importance of bringing a small gesture to my mother's birthday dinner was communicated. He didn't make an effort to bring my mother birthday gesture of a bottle of wine, card, her F lowers, but felt comfortable sitting down to eat empty-handed when all other guests came with gestures, gifts. He's 35 and financially stable. My 25F boyfriend, 34M, have been together for 5 years. Our relationship has been mostly positive, but in the last 2 years I've noticed consistent tension and distance between us. We are fighting more often, spending less time together, and don't have sex at all anymore. I was looking forward to our 5th anniversary in hopes of getting us back on track, both physically and emotionally. Admittedly, I've put on a little comfort weight over the course of our relationship. My boyfriend claims he doesn't mind, but I suspect that his true feelings about it are to blame for our lack of intimacy. Anyway, the night of our anniversary arrives. We go out to dinner at the restaurant where we went on our first date and things were going surprisingly well, though I could tell he was acting slightly nervous. I feel a wave of excitement and think, wishfully, he's going to propose tonight. Part of me thought this was too good to be true. But we had discussed marriage in the past, and I stupidly hoped that a proposal at this time might salvage our relationship and allow us to recommit to each other. We return to our apartment. It's like we just started dating again. Things feel great. We go to bedroom and then he drops the bomb. I want to try masturbating next to you tonight. Well, he didn't say it exactly like that, but that was the gist. I was shocked and confused. He explained that he wanted to reestablish our intimate relationship and that this was the way he felt comfortable doing it. However, from my point of view, he wasn't even interested in trying to have real intimacy, you know? The idea was at least something, and it seemed to be heading in the direction of reconnecting intimately, so I decided to give it a try. It was awful, awkward, impersonal, estranged. My boyfriend of 5 years masturbating in our bed inches from me on our anniversary. AIO? I want to be open-minded to what he's comfortable with sexually at this rocky stage in our relationship, but I'm not sure if this is for me. So, my birthday was last week, and my boyfriend, 23M, and I, 23F, had been planning for months to celebrate together. But just a day before, he told me he couldn't come because he didn't have the car. I was really frustrated because it felt like he just ditched me last minute. So I made new plans with my other friends instead. When he found out, he got upset not about missing my birthday, but because I didn't seem upset enough about it. In reality, I was really hurt. I just wasn't showing it to him the way he expected. We ended up fighting about it because he felt like I didn't care that he wasn't coming and that I moved on too quickly by making other plans. And then after this argument, he went behind my back and made a plan with my best friend to surprise me on my birthday. Then he tried to convince me to be part of this plan that I wasn't even originally included in. The issue? I wasn't comfortable with him texting my best friend about this, especially since I've told him before that I don't want her involved in our plans. Plus, this was supposed to be an intimate birthday dinner just between the two of us, but now she was suddenly invited. Lastly, I had already made plans with my other friends, and I couldn't ditch them last minute just because he decided to change things up. So I told him no, I wasn't going to be part of it. Fast forward, he didn't show up on my actual birthday, but 3 days later he came to celebrate with me. I put in a lot of effort. I got all dressed up, skipped 3 classes just to meet him, and even wrote him a 5-page handwritten letter. When we finally met, he only brought me flowers. Now, I wasn't expecting anything over the top, but we had already talked about my birthday gift before. He originally wanted to get me a necklace with his name on it, but I had told him I preferred a promise ring. I even sent him a website to choose from. He picked one, I approved it, and I gave him my ring size. So, I was expecting him to actually follow through with that. Instead, he told me that he had ordered a gift basket full of chocolates for me, but apparently it was a scam, and it never arrived. Honestly, I don't know if I believe him. He never showed me any proof of ordering it, which he usually does when he buys things. And I also feel like he wouldn't order something like this without at least telling me beforehand.